ready?
We're on.
All right, with it being after 7, we will call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we can start off with minutes. Deb's read them, so we just need an approval.
Move to approve the minutes of January 22nd, 2020, and February 5th, 2020.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. They're right on my dashboard. I don't have an agenda with me. Can I steal your agenda?
Hold on.
Okay, we're good, good. First one is 242-1780, 1230 Salem Street.
Commission recalls this is a notice of intent for a new single-family house and associated appurtenances with a septic system and driveway on a currently vacant wooded lot. At the last hearing, the commission requested plan revisions that included labeling the cart path as abandoned, calling out construction fencing along the limit of work, which is along the driveway and west of the septic system where erosion controls are not called out. Foundation drain discharge point moved outside of the 50-foot no-build zone, and making sure that wetland flag D5 was accurately depicted on the plan and in the field, which it is. So all those changes have been made. We have an updated plan. DEP has issued a file number, and I don't think there was any other requests for information
Joe,
or
any
outstanding
questions?
conditions.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Deb?
No questions.
Doug?
No questions.
Motion.
So I recommend, if there's no public comment, I don't think there is anyone
Is
here.
that your
No,
butters still
no,
here?
I don't think so. Okay. So just recommend closing and issuing in 20 days. I have drafted a decision for you tonight.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is an enforcement order. It's 460 Summer Street, excuse me, 410 Summer Street.
Commission will recall, this is going to be an after-the-fact notice of intent for a pool rehab. We had ordered the homeowner to get the wetland delineated and submit a notice of intent. Wetland is delineated, and he's been traveling a lot lately for work, so he hasn't been able to coordinate with Andover Consultants, but he did say that he anticipates submitting in time for the March 11th meeting. So I would hope that would be the case, but if the notice of intent is not received in time for that date, I recommend the commission would amend the enforcement order to set a date certain for a deadline.
Questions, Joe?
I have none.
You're asking for an amendment to the EO?
No, if we don't get one in time for March 11th,
Okay.
then at that time, I would recommend voting for
Okay.
date certain.
He's aware the clock is ticking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We went through these today, Amy and I, and he can't believe, it's not his fault. His engineer is out of town, so communication's been kind of, it's not like he's ignoring us. So I hate to, I don't want to hammer the guy when he's trying to.
No, I agree with you.
He's trying his best, and the rest of them we'll go through it, but I would say they're all the same. That's all set, Doug? Motion?
Motion to continue?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 644 Salem Street.
Conservation Department staff, while driving by 644 Salem, noticed that there were fresh trees cut in the rear yard. We knocked on the door and spoke with the homeowner, and we weren't allowed access to the site, but it's fairly wide open back there, so it's easy to see at least the 2 willow trees that were cut in the backyard. So I just informed the homeowner that I would have to report to the commission and ask them to come in to talk about violation. The trees are in close proximity to the brook and a BVW on the other side. The trunks and cut trunks are stored in the BVW. I don't know if there's tree cutting inside the wetland. I couldn't tell. I mean, it seems like maybe there was 1 or 2 trees, but I couldn't get close enough to verify, so.
Just for clarification, so the record's clear, the agenda says Monahan, the letter is addressed to Monahan, but the letter is signed on with Dear Mr. and Mrs. McNamara. That's just a Scrivener's
Oh,
error.
that's a Scrivener's error.
So it went to the proper party, and
Yeah.
that's the folks who are here tonight.
Sorry about that. I don't
It's
know
okay.
how that happened. Apologies for that.
Just want you to know that we called you on this, not penalize you, only in the fact that we just can't have people randomly cut trees in the wetlands, because if everybody did that, we wouldn't have a tree in this town.
No, we understand, and the willow trees have been on this lot, from what we're told, 50 years, right? Willow trees last about 30 years. I've got pictures of the rot,
No,
right? And that's the only reason they were cut down.
willow trees aren't great, but and I'm hoping that people are watching. All it was needed was you to go downstairs
Yep.
and talk to staff, and it would have been addressed, and it wouldn't have required an enforcement order, and whatever.
Friendly enforcement order.
Huh?
A friendly enforcement order.
A friendly
To allow
enforcement.
it, to allow it.
Right.
We didn't know.
Yeah, we just didn't
No.
know we had to, right? It's,
And
Well, I just
they
wanna
had
let-
been damaged in a storm and they were leaning, and we were just concerned that they were going to go down.
I just want to let you know that we're not, we didn't just single you out.
yep, no, we understand.
All right?
Yep.
And the other question I have is, you can see it from, I can see it from this aerial. What is in the back, is that a treehouse or
Where?
Right,
right there?
so we have a bridge too.
It looks like there's a walkway to it. That's why I'm asking.
So all these houses, when we bought this house, every house on our road has a path over the brook.
Yeah, I guess
The
we
bridge
do.
was there.
So all these bridges have been there forever.
But what
That-
is that?
What is the,
Is that a structure?
Oh, our son built a,
I think that's just, my son bought some wood, and way back in the woods, he built a fort.
On the
about
ground?
2 years ago, on the
our,
ground, yes.
he's 15 years old, or he was younger when he.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
It's just the problem is that
That's not there anymore.
it's not there anymore.
No, that little square is not there anymore.
Okay.
The fort he built is about 200 feet back up against the wall where those old power lines run behind the property.
Yep, the old railroad bed.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's it. Joe?
No, I think it's a good approach on this, is to, educate the homeowner as well as the public at large, that, we're not typically gonna say you can't cut the trees down so much as we're gonna say how it is that you can do it and what sort of protection measures might need to be done, especially if it's a dangerous or at-risk tree. We're not looking to create or allow hazards to continue. It gets dicey when you're in an old established area, not super old, but old enough that, these sorts of things, all these houses do have paths up through the swamps and stuff, and kids make forts, and I understand that, but, we just can't allow them to continue or to have new stuff be done, and I think the message has been delivered. So what are we looking to accomplish at this point? Just,
well, if,
the trees have been cut, they haven't been stumped,
right.
and you're not gonna grind the stumps out, are you? Yeah. Good luck with the will, because you'll go forever. The thing will be 20 feet deep.
Those things are terrible.
But because it's so porous, it'll rot out
It'll rot on its
very
own.
Will
quickly.
rot out
So,
very
right,
quickly.
It'll
then
rot
you
on its
just
own.
pull the stump
Yeah.
when you can pull it up, and that's the plan. So when we bought the house, there was 4 of them, and you can kind of see in the right-hand corner, lower right-hand corner, One of those fell down about 5 years ago on its own. And there's no stump there anymore. It's just covered over with dirt. I planted seed this year because now was about the final time that most of the stump has been gone. If you look at the other two trees, you could see how barren they are. So I mean, that's how rotted they've been. And and I got rotted stumps. My question is what is considered wetland then on our property?
So because of the brook, I'm not gonna speculate, but looking at a photograph for all of
Yeah.
3 minutes, but the reality is that area that's flat in the back, probably an awful lot of that is considered to be wetland. It's not just water, it's
Right, it's
vegetation,
vegetation,
it's
I get it.
soil condition, those all together make a wetland.
Yep.
And then in wetlands, there are areas that you need to protect, and everybody needs to protect, not just you folks. And, they're 25 feet away from that wetland line. You're not supposed to do anything new.
So if I go downstairs, can they show me what's mapped as wetlands?
It's not mapped, it's site-specific. We can generalize from mapping, but site-specific, you'd have to be right on the property to
Could we
determine
print
it.
a GIS file from him?
I'm sorry?
Could we print a map of his property with GIS on it?
Sure.
But it's not gonna have it's not gonna have precise wetland mapping.
But
No,
it'll be
it won't
close
have a
enough, it'll give
precise
him an idea,
wetland.
the
Give an
GIS
idea,
mapping will,
yeah.
will
Right,
put
so,
him in the
so
ballpark.
our land is 400 feet deep.
So that's what I was
So
just
what
gonna say.
I'm wondering now is the stuff that I cut,
Yeah.
can I move it 200 feet back? Is really what I'm asking today, but I
Probably
will have to
not.
go downstairs and.
Probably not, so that's what you want to
I
talk.
would say anything behind the brook is all wetland.
So here's the problem. I've lived here a long time.
Yep.
I probably saw your house get built. You and all your neighbors over the years have built bridges across that brook to access their property in the back. That's been going on for a million years. We issued, we used to hand out pamphlets, educational pamphlets. We used to send staff up and down Salem Street to all the houses on that side, giving them pamphlets, trying to educate them to the Wetland Protection Act and the town's bylaw. And with every new owner, the pamphlets are just pamphlets, they're gone. So, when this house was built, there wasn't any town bylaw, there probably wasn't a Wetland Protection Act. And so what's happened is, over the years, as the laws have become more specific, your property, which at one time was completely compliant, is shrinking in terms of what you can do. So it just requires, as you're asking, knowing where the boundaries are, and then making a phone call to staff and ask them what you can do with regard to vegetation, cutting of trees, pruning. We permit it, we allow it, we won't tell you no, but there has to be a process. And a lot of it can be accomplished under a small project filing. But I suspect that probably a dozen houses either side of you have bridges that go
I
across.
can see that.
And
I can see one of
Yeah.
you, butter.
that's right, and they've been there since the 60s, no question. And when they put them there wasn't a prohibition. And over the years, the prohibitions have grown. The Wetland Protection Act has become stricter. The bylaw has reflected changes. Soils have changed. So unfortunately, you're at the wrong end of it. But you can still use your property. You just have to,
The way you have.
you have to be more judicious about how you use your property.
Does the bridge need to be removed?
I think the bridge, because it's an existing bridge, you would only have to get a permit if you had to repair it.
Okay.
Because there is a provision for repairs in kind.
That's that fine line that's hard for us to define from the table here, but your house is so old and predates the laws, it's theoretically grandfathered, so you can continue to do what you have been doing. The bridge has been there, the bridge can stay there. Your lawn is established and right up to the edge of the brook, it can stay there. We're not gonna say maintain a 25-foot buffer zone after the fact. You came in and you wanted to build an addition to your house or a pool in the backyard, we're gonna open up the new regulations, and it's gonna make it subject to those current regulations. But enjoying it the way you have enjoyed it, continue to do so. But recognize anything within, 100 feet of that brook, just make a phone call first. If you've contemplated, make a phone call, we'll tell you not a problem, or it's a small issue, and this is how we're gonna deal with it, or it might be a big one if you are in fact building an addition. So those are the thresholds I think you wanna look at.
Just call Amy.
Just call her, yeah. Like I said,
I'll say, Mr.
and
Chairman.
it goes for the people that are watching us. If you're in doubt, it doesn't hurt to see staff. We got Amy and we got Ben and Jamie, and they can help you. Like I would say, on the other side of the brook, is you're not, because you're gonna have the brook then you're gonna have a 25-foot no disturb, then you're gonna be another 50. If you don't need the land, leave it alone.
Yeah, no,
You know what I'm saying?
I don't disagree with that. I just.
But like I said, if you wanna do anything on the other side, on your house side of the brook, see staff.
Yeah.
They give you, that's what they're there for. You know, they're there to serve the people of North Andover. So, okay, Deb?
All set.
Doug, all set? All right, so what are we gonna do here now?
Just ratify the order, or what is it we're ultimately looking for?
Well, I didn't know if the
Owners to
commission
do.
wanted replanting or condition that the trunks be removed from the wetland, or,
So you got a manicured lawn, the whole side of the brook looks to be established lawn. Replanting's not gonna really accomplish much, but I think clear understanding of the other side of brook is buffer zone, and it's probably pretty close to pristine. Just as long as it's an understanding to leave it alone,
Yeah.
that's what we get in return.
okay. Okay.
Also, you did the 2 willow trees and you did another tree, right? Isn't this one that?
Well, I don't know if there was a tree in the wetland or not. I couldn't, it seemed.
No, that's just the
It's one
stumps
of-
from the
one
two
of-
willow trees.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Those will condense, they can't be ground, but they can't
Yep.
be stumped. Just let them die.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you also? You also, any questions?
I'm sorry, yes, I'm all set, thank you. Yeah.
Deb? Doug? Okay, so we need a motion to,
So just motion to issue a modified enforcement letter. You know, I can just recap kind of what we talked about tonight, and just conditioning that the stumps not be ground out.
Not ground out in that no disposal of any material on the opposite side.
On the
of
other
brook.
side, okay.
right.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
guys.
coming in.
I'd like to do that. Next one is 242, 1689, 1995, Salem Street.
Commission will recall issuing an order of conditions in April of 2017 for the construction of 3 new single-family house lots. The houses and the majority of the work was outside the jurisdiction of the commission, but work inside the 200-foot riverfront area and 100-foot buffer zone to wetlands across the street consisted of construction of driveways, a detention pond, and associated clearing. The house on Lot 1 ended up being built in a different configuration than what was permitted through planning board and the building department. And so the discovery of a different footprint of the house led to planning staff and conservation staff trying to figure out whether the new footprint caused a problem for any of the stormwater management features on site, the new impervious surface, which then led to recognizing that perhaps the limit of work, the approved limits of clearing were not complied with. So we worked with the developers and his project engineer to get a handle on approved limits of work versus existing limits of work out there on the field. So we're able to pin that down better. So there is additional unauthorized clearing within the riverfront. The project engineer provided an overlay of limited work and an aerial, which didn't come out very good in your packets. Okay, but I can project it when I find it. Okay, hold on. All right. So this is prior to any work. The green, inside the green represents approved limited clearing. And this was meant to try to assess how many trees outside the approved limits were taken, and the project engineer estimates about, about 5 trees in the riverfront and 5 that are outside the riverfront, that are in planning board jurisdiction.
Green is what was approved.
Inside the green,
Inside the green was the limited clearing.
right.
Purple is what is there, is what
Purple
has
is,
been done?
no, purple is property line,
Property, okay.
right,
And is white is what has been done?
yep,
What has, okay.
right,
Thank you.
so. So I have another color, this one. This might help a little bit. So yellow represents approved limit, and then pink represents additional clearing, basically. So,
Any questions, Joe?
So they sought out a certificate of occupancy to start with, and in doing the plan comparison was the discrepancy
Right.
identified. So they're still looking to get a certificate of occupancy, and we need to find a process for that to happen. That's what they're asking.
well, I think the planning board has the ability to withhold the certificate of occupancy. I mean, the house is outside of jurisdiction, so we have to keep that in mind.
So is it newly constructed? No, this can't be newly constructed.
Yeah.
Yep,
Just recently, all right. So being occupied for the first time,
right,
hopefully, I mean.
right,
But you can still occupy a house without a certificate of compliance.
right,
It's hard to get a.
that's right.
Not hard, it just makes getting a mortgage a little more complicated. But as long as it's covered by a bond and the instrument's clear in the
Right.
closing, it shouldn't be impossible. In fact, it's done all the time.
I mean, we have the signed affidavit from the new owner that they have a copy of the order of conditions, they understand the obligations they're under. Mr. Hodgins lives in the house the next lot over in one of the new houses, so he's a neighbor.
So the reason why I said what I just did is, it's not only not unusual, it's pretty common to have a house transfer ownership and have an outstanding order of conditions. It's not at all unusual.
Right,
And in order to facilitate a request for certificate of compliance on something that needs some additional work, and I don't wanna sound hostile, I don't think we give them a certificate of compliance. I don't think that's the answer, but I don't see any hostility here either. I think
No.
the answer is, if they've got a plan, if we hold sufficient bond, we probably do, and the planning board's holding their own bond for other things that may be required, it becomes a financial deal more than a compliance deal. And
Just to clarify, we weren't asking for the certificate of compliance at this point. What happened was during the building process, when the house configuration changed, planning and conservation had also, it kind of flagged both of them to come out, and that's what sparked it. So he's actually had a stop work order on the property since October. And we're just trying to get the occupancy permit for the house at this point. He still has to pave the driveway, put in the walkway. We kind of just back up the driveway with loam and seed. So we're definitely not at the certificate of compliance phase, but we just wanted to,
right,
resolve the extra clearing issue.
right.
I think get
you're
back to.
correct, conservation has no standing in issuing a CO.
COs, right.
And I'm not even sure planning board does,
But
unless
they-
there's an
but they
actual
need a
covenant
They need a driveway. I think that's what they need.
in order to sell.
Yeah.
So is the order expired, or is the
No.
order still current?
Order's current, it's due to expire on April 24th, and we have a request for an extension, which is a little bit later on the agenda.
So what we have is a permanent place. They're not looking to do anything different. They
No.
want to complete the project and bring those areas that are somewhat out of compliance into compliance.
Right.
If we
I-
extend it for a year, they got a year to do that. And I think it's the only thing we do is consider the extension, and everything works. And I don't think we hold up the CO.
We have to kind of tell them what we want.
No, but I think,
Is the driveway location approved? Or is that the issue?
no, the driveway's fine. I think it's the limit of clearing
Okay.
beyond what was approved under the order of conditions.
So we're looking for restoration?
Possibly.
So maybe that's, TJ, what did you have in mind?
I mean, that's what we were thinking. I kind of used that Google Earth image Amy had up. I know it's kind of a rough idea of how many trees. I could count 5 larger trees. I'm sure there were smaller ones underneath. We're not against, maybe like a 2-to-1 replication, especially along the portions of Salem Street where it is within the 100-foot. Just restoring it as best we can. That was really all we
So I mean, I don't
could
know, I
offer.
mean,
to-
I don't know if this opens up examining the other 2 lots for, limited clearing in the riverfront, making sure that that is in compliance, because,
Let's not complicate this one with
Right.
the other possibility, which
no, I get it,
I understand it too.
right,
But keeping this one simple, sounds like we have a current
current order
permit
of
holder
conditions.
and the current owner
Yep,
who's motivated to sell and motivated to come into compliance.
right,
We have the time, we have a current permit that can be extended.
right,
The mechanism to do whatever it is we're gonna require is, we could do that at staff level and have them submit a modification as part of that extension request. Modify it, tell us what it is you're going to do to rectify
rectify
the
the,
overclearing.
okay,
And I think that cleans up this request. Now, because of this, you might be suspicious, and we have a current permit, current order conditions on the abutting lots, right?
yeah, it's
In the
one,
course-
it's
in the
one
course of
order
you
that
doing your
covers all
job,
3 lots.
We have the right to go in and inspect. Just,
Yeah,
I think we go in and have an authorization to go in and determine if there's a problem with those or not, and we'll deal with those separately.
okay,
Unless you know.
I don't know. No, 'cause we typically won't do an as-built at this point, just with all the other issues that came up, we had to.
Sure.
So no, we haven't looked at the other 2 yet.
And I don't wanna downplay it, because I think, whatever it is you're expecting for restoration, and whatever that comes in through the modification along with the extension, I think that's the remedy, that's how we resolve it for the record.
okay. So would the commission expect a 1-to-1 replanting with a caliper size specified?
I haven't seen the site to tell you what,
I mean, usually
It's
it's
appropriate.
usually it's 3-to-1,
3-to-1?
usually.
Okay.
But you can, it's up to you.
And he's been agreeable too.
Well, I mean, I
Usually
think
we defer to you.
we're counting pine trees here,
Yeah, okay, so,
and there could have been deciduous trees that got removed.
honestly, that's something that TJ could propose,
Yeah.
and you could approve or not approve.
Okay,
Usually, a restoration and planting plan, we rely upon.
Okay. So would you be looking for the 3-to-1?
I'm gonna defer to Amy.
Okay.
this is all fringe buffer zone, like,
it is
or outside?
200 riverfront area to the river and wetland across the street.
So the overcutting is compared to the plan, but is there any of it in violation for the 25 no disturb?
No,
So it was only,
it's outer, it's part of the inner riverfront, part of the buffer, and most of it's the outer
Outer riparian.
riparian.
So that's something that you can,
Okay,
that's totally
Alright.
within your purview, then,
all right,
honestly.
all right, so,
I'm not trying to bounce it around, but.
No, no, no,
just to
that's all
keep-
right.
To
I
keep
mean-
it simple, that's usually where it
the
should.
So-
fortunate thing here is we still have a valid order to allow all this to happen without
right. Do you-
an enforcement action.
So, through a modification. So I'd work with the applicant and his engineer on preparing a replanting plan.
It doesn't even have to be a modification,
No.
just a planting and restoration plan, and you can
Okay,
have.
I would leave the enforcement in place till next
Yeah,
meeting.
but let, yeah, I would agree, leave the EO in there, but just let, you determine how you want it restored.
Okay.
If it's just outer riparian overcut, that's easy to fix.
okay,
That's an easy fix.
By doing it with the modification and with that extension, then it's crystal clear that it's binding on the new buyer, when the new buyer ultimately takes title.
Okay. I just have I have 2 questions. I don't like separating, that this is under, the 3-house subdivision was under one filing, correct?
yep, yep.
Yes.
All right, so if we do, for starters, house number one, it's not jurisdictional, but it's been moved, so the as-built is, when it submits his as-built, is not gonna be the same. So, when he files his modification to fix the trees, I want him to put the right foundation on the as-built plan. So everything looks the same.
Mhm. Yeah, the as-built that I had submitted to Amy, that does have the correct,
It has the correct one.
yeah, that does have the correct footprint.
Okay. And I'm not too crazy about doing, if they cut in violation of lot one, I'm sure two and three are gonna have issues. So if Amy's going out there to look at all these trees, I would look at the other two lots also,
Okay,
so that you know what you have to do.
Mhm.
So that this way, when you come back the next time, it's all clean.
Okay,
So that everything just goes smooth sailing, because we don't wanna go through this all over again for lot
Right.
two, for lot three, you know, because that's all money. I mean, you're not here for free.
right.
Not that I'm not trying to hit your pocketbook, but it seems to me because it's gonna be the same issue if there's a violation of tree cutting, restoration
Understand it
plan.
all at once.
Do it all in one shot.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
okay,
That's
so
all I say.
I guess just to clarify that, so Amy, you're gonna go out to the site.
I'll go out with you.
Yep, and I guess will we just incorporate any issues as far as
Two
restoration
and
with
lot.
those lots at the
Two
same
and three,
time, and then
right.
you'll just approve it administratively?
Yep.
Or would we be back here?
No,
Sorry.
you don't have to come back.
Okay,
Administratively?
Yeah, as long as you've got a plan, a letter with a restoration agreement,
Okay,
and you
All
can,
right.
you can annex it to the file,
all right,
that's satisfactory.
And then when you come back for your COC, for your as-built, shows all the places that we've talked about, or Amy's talked about.
Are we missing the extension out of the process?
Well, that's next, that's later on.
So you're saying that's all gonna happen in the next month and a half, and
Well,
then,
we take
and
it out of
then,
order, Mr. Chairman,
Oh, we can do that.
and just get rid of it all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, extension.
because that expires in April?
yes.
So it's-
So really, it's just right around the corner.
Yeah.
Right.
They should be working on
Right.
that extension, modification, and this restoration, all in one fell swoop.
You
Okay,
have a
so,
request
mean-
to extend it in front of you?
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, she
it's
got
on
We
the
do.
agenda.
It's already
We
on,
do.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's deal with it.
All right.
Are you good on the restoration?
Yeah, so you guys are fine with my approving a restoration plan after we get out there to do some recon
For
on
one,
all
two,
three lots?
All
Yeah.
three lots.
I approve it as part of the file, and then when it comes time for certificate.
Get a letter of agreement
Letter of agreement. and-
describing the work,
Right,
and make it part of the record.
And then when
Okay.
they apply for their COCs,
if that's,
it'll show
that needs to
the
be
changes.
implemented and completed, or they don't get their certificate of compliance.
And as
Okay,
long as you've made it part of the record, it's easy.
all right.
Okay. All right, so
Okay.
any questions on the extension request?
So this is the last extension that the order is eligible for?
Well, they got
One
another
more
year and it's pretty well built.
One more year. Yep.
So,
Doug, any
So I
questions?
recommend a year.
All right.
And the current one expires when?
April 24th.
So though we're taking the vote tonight, the extension will take effect April 25th. So it'll be a year from April 25th, not a year from tonight.
Right, right, exactly.
All right. So we need a motion.
So moved.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. All set.
Great.
great, thank you.
All right, great. So we'll circle back, TJ, and get out there. Okay, all right, thanks.
Oh, that's driveway?
Site too, okay,
On my
Okay,
end.
I'm sorry.
okay,
Yep,
great, thank you.
That's-
thanks.
It's the heat, yeah, the heat's
Oh,
cranking
oh,
in.
oh, oh, okay. That's why I went in there. I know it's getting hot in here.
Let's move fast.
I moved, I admitted one.
order, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, 1806 Salem Street. Sorry about that.
Oh, all right.
So we just did
I was
1806.
wondering where that went.
No,
to.
we did,
I knew there was
uh,
something else.
We did 1995.
Okay.
We did 1995.
All right,
I missed 1806.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that.
okay, so, Actually, it was the building inspector who had noticed activity on this site and informed our department. Field Inspector Ben Curl went out to witness that some excavation was started to install a gravel driveway along the right side of the property, which abuts an intermittent stream that flows from this pond area down and across the street through Colbert. He directed the contractor to even out the piles of soil that had been piled up and install erosion control and just stop work, and then asked him to come in this evening to discuss the project. I had Ben pop out there today, and the site is still in compliance with that stop work order, so I believe the contractor is here, or the owner? Are you the owner, okay, all right. So the owner is here this evening, and so we can just walk through the process.
Yeah, I mean, back to the same thing, you were here for the other applicant that went and cut trees down without checking with, all you had to do was check with staff, and they would've told you you were putting in the wrong place, you were putting in the wrong right place, or vice versa.
Yep.
When
There
doing,
there was an existing driveway there. The driveway was already there. When I bought the house, there's a second half to the house, which that's the entrance to the house. My house is split in two. So there's already a driveway there. It was like a compact asphalt driveway that was there, but all around it is, I was gonna add on to it to make it bigger, because I park in there and it's just mud. There's trees over it, and it doesn't grow grass.
that's the problem. If you were doing an existing driveway, you
Still
wouldn't.
need a permit.
Yeah, you still need a permit, because you
Yep,
need,
yep, I'm
but
aware of that
by
now.
making it larger, now it's a whole new ballgame.
Yep.
First of all, you need a driveway permit, which, you know, some people do get them and some don't. And you need a street opening permit, because you're making, say you have a 12-foot wide driveway, now you got a 24-foot driveway, that's 24 foot of open roadway. I know that's not a nice place to come in and out of, but it's just, those questions would be answered if you went to downstairs and asked. Just going forward and doing things on your own, you don't think you're doing anything wrong, but you are, it is. And the contractor that you hired should know that. You know, we just can't have people randomly put driveways in, or randomly cut trees, or fill in wetlands, or, you know, on their,
Yeah, there are some properties that are subtle. It looks like a meadow. I didn't know that was a wetland. Any contractor who does business anywhere in the United States would know, I can't be working out here. I need to see the permits.
and particularly North End. I've been in the
And-
construction business for over 40 years.
I hate
And
to
I
say it,
know-
I mean, even if they had gone to Amy or gone to staff and done all the upfront, scratch and sniff work, they still would have walked away hearing something they wouldn't have liked, which is, you can't put a driveway there.
Right?
So the problem is, you've got something that started, and because you didn't ask in advance, someone's gonna lose some money for starting this work, because it's now gonna be put back the way it was. You can go through the expense and the effort of getting a permit, but I can tell you, just the 3 or 4 minutes I've looked at photographs only, I think you got an impossible task to get a permit to put that driveway in.
If I have no problem putting it all back the way it should be, the way it was, but can I keep the existing driveway that's there?
I don't know.
It's
What
half,
we
it's
gotta-
it's about
so we
two-thirds
have-
still there. They didn't do much work there.
We don't have anything secret, top secret in the conservation department, but there's this great, public domain, aerial photography that we can literally look at aerial photography going back about 25 years. And we can see the evolution of what lots look like.
So
Even Street View going down, Google Earth, looking at Street View, you can look and see what was there. I mean, if there was something there, there's a conversation to allow
Yeah.
what was there to go back. if it's unclear of what was there, the answer probably is gonna be is there was no driveway there.
Yeah, I've seen Google pictures and stuff of it, it's there.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that, you should be
Yep.
confident then.
So that wasn't crystal clear to Ben when he was out there, and we didn't do forensics for aerials. We would have if we had any question. I mean, we can circle back and do that to try to figure out what was
Yeah,
there.
it wasn't by accident. You asked me to do was to return it to what it was beforehand, so,
Right.
you know, if it proves out that there was a gravel path that was used as an access way,
Yeah.
then, you know, it could probably go back. But, you know, but things like widening and paving and, you know, it's just,
Right.
it's off the table.
Okay.
And I'm only trying to be efficient in the process because, you know, some folks would say, I don't want to apply for the permit anyway, but I just can't see how it's approvable.
If you're familiar with that section of Salem Street, the backyard is Fallsview Pond.
Yeah, you know this area.
Yep. So,
What I think I'm hearing is the commission would want me to do some forensic investigation as to what was there, get the best handle I could to allow them to return it
well,
where
why
it
don't we-
was and restore what was disturbed that wasn't a driveway?
Well, the applicant is saying that it was a driveway there.
Right.
That's fine. That'll be his diligence to find, and you can go check it out, or Ben, to see where it was. And then, for the next meeting, he can come before us to keep what he has. That if he wants to file an RDA or whatever,
To expand it.
and Joe's already telling him that it ain't gonna happen. 'Cause there's a-
Trying to be realistic, I mean.
Yeah, there's a
you know,
wall and a brook.
Unless
The brook
suddenly
is
the
right
yard
there.
grows and the brook gets farther away, it doesn't look like it's approvable.
No, so I would continue it till the next meeting.
Mhm.
If you can prove that it's an existing driveway, yeah, if you want to move it toward your house instead of toward the brook, you know, no, you don't want a driveway in front of your house, a parking lot or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's an option. You're moving away.
From the.
Oh, no, I'm stopping short of that too. Lou. What I'm saying is, if the question is to put it back the way it was.
Right.
Even if it's wider to the house and if it's in the 50-foot setback or if it's in the 25 no disturb zone, still shouldn't let
No,
it make it
it's
wider
not.
at
I
all.
don't think it is.
Well, the photo sure looked like it was.
I don't think
And
it
the-
was.
And even the mapping on there looks like it ought to be closer.
Well,
It's about, it's about 13, well, where I was gonna extend it out to would make it 13 feet to the little river that runs.
all right, so if you
Alright,
eliminate
that's
that
close.
and you can
The
prove.
existing one is about, the existing one's probably about 34, maybe 40, between 40 and 35 feet from the river.
Okay.
Who's the contractor?
Scott Top.
Who?
Scott Top, they're out of Saugus.
Okay. No, but I'm saying if it's an option, I think you can go the other way, but that would be in front of your house.
Yeah, I'm not here to argue with it or nothing,
No.
I'm just, maybe, it was a bad decision maybe, so if, I put it all back to the way it was, and then, I just like to have the little driveway still there so she can park there without, parking in mud.
Well, just an example of where that truck is,
Yep.
he's in violation.
Mm-hmm.
Because right on the other side of that wall is the brook, correct?
Yep.
All right, so that truck is is in violation.
So, we need to get a handle on where the existing driveway was. If I can feel confident that I'm comfortable that I understand where it was, we can operate under an enforcement order to allow him to restore what was.
You should be able to get that
With
from
no
the
expansion.
historical photos.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I
that's
think.
the path forward we want to take?
Yeah.
Well, that's the most reliable source of information,
Yep.
unless they have some data that we
Sure.
don't have.
Sure.
The historical satellite imagery will tell you almost exactly what it looked like, I think. I don't know. Is there
You
another
lived there
way?
a while?
I bought the house about 7 months ago.
So
You probably don't have historic photographs of your own.
No, but I have, I just have pictures of it,
Anything will help.
Seeing pictures and
Because
pictures
if we
when
can't
I
prove-
bought it.
If we can't prove from publicly available photography, the presumption's gonna be that there was no driveway there.
So if you
Yeah.
got
So if you
photos-
got
Well, it's
photographs, help
still,
us.
2/3 of it is still there. The pavement, the hard stuff is still,
So
the
that's a good-
driveway's still there. You just can't really see it because we're not back far enough.
So that's a good indicator, so if you can add to that any photos that you
Mhm.
might have. Amy can go for the satellite imagery, those are very good. They show
Okay.
changes over
Okay.
time.
Also, we have Ben go out there and visual, look at it visually, if there was any driveway
Yep.
there. And if you can, and if it's far enough away from the brook to go the other way, I think they can. But,
One step at a time.
Yeah.
but what,
Take-
yeah, he
take-
might not want it for his house. But I mean, that's an
All
option.
right,
Mhm.
all
Um,
right. So
If it can be compliant.
I'll circle back, I'll do some forensic.
All right,
You
so
wanna
we're gonna,
submit whatever
we're
you
gonna
gonna,
have
just
for
continue this,
photos of
we're
the
gonna
site,
continue this enforcement
and
until
then
March 11th.
we'll come back with a better idea of what was there.
Right.
Is the house on septic?
Yes.
So this probably, Board of Health probably has a septic plan that might show it.
Okay.
Just, I mean,
Okay.
there's gotta be
You just
something,
bought it in the past 7 months?
Yeah.
so there's gotta be something somewhere.
Probably even have a Title V
Title
you got.
V.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
it's likely got a new system, which may hopefully have something in it.
Okay,
That'll help you.
Do you have any more questions?
okay,
Doug, you?
it's all right,
Yeah, just someplace to look.
okay.
Move to continue to March in London.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. So get in touch with staff and
Yep.
set up an appointment. You guys can go look at it
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming in, thank you.
All right, next one is 242-1692, which is commerce site, commercial site in
Do you
12th and
wanna do,
Osgood.
residential side first? You guys?
Pardon me?
Do we wanna give them a chance to show up? They probably,
Who's that?
No, we do,
Are they
we have
here?
reps, yes, we do.
I see Mr. Tennant. Are
So
you
John
carrying the ball?
Henry and-
You are carrying the ball, okay. Right, that makes it easy.
For both,
I'm accustomed to seeing the OJ defense team.
I know.
So when I see one guy by. Yeah, good enough, all right.
Now, you're gonna represent both applicants?
Well, you're representing the file number as far as we're concerned.
Okay.
As far as this commission's concerned, I know you've been attending, you understand, our position is 2421692 is the site.
Okay, all right.
How you guys want to describe the site they're in, you can describe it any way you want.
I watched the last meeting.
So you understand?
Well aware that that's the question you asked, and
No, we just want to make sure, we make sure that you know,
Yep.
where we
Yes.
are and everything.
So just for the record,
for the record, I'm Jeff Brown, I'm General Counsel with Princeton Development, and with me is John Henry from Lockwood Remediation Technologies. I did, as Mr. Manzi mentioned, I did watch the February 5th hearing, and I'm aware that the initial request, at least under the residential enforcement order, was to have a point of contact person.
Yep.
And so I did reach out to Ms. Maxner, and I've been nominated, so I provided all my contact information. I've been on the email list, I think, since the beginning anyways.
Yeah.
So I did, I'm willing to step forward and do that, I guess just to give the commission some assurance of my familiarity with the project. I think I've been involved in every aspect of the project since its original permitting in 2015. So I was there when it was a farm, I did site walks when it was a farm, so I'm very familiar with all aspects. I'm not gonna try to be an engineer tonight, but we'll do the best to answer your questions between John and myself. So I think that was the only open item that I understood
Okay.
under the
from the last meeting.
residential enforcement
right.
order.
Yeah, that's, in
So-
fact, we're in possession of an email that you sent.
Yes.
Basically, you put a disclaimer in your email
From the
I'm
term.
just gonna go there. I didn't know you read to.
where you say, "I am happy to serve and make this process more efficient. However, to be clear, neither myself, Princeton, or NRP are directly involved in the commercial development and operations and nothing with regards to Princeton and/or NRP involvement in the same should be implied through your willingness to facilitate with the communications from the NACT to these two developments.
Correct.
So what I take from that,
Now, it goes further, and I think you
Yeah.
need to read the whole thing. 'Cause
okay,
it-
go ahead, yeah.
Finally, with my, this is again, Mr. Brown, Attorney Brown. My full recognition of the EOs issued by the commission, my willingness to serve, to facilitate communications with the commercial group should not be construed as a waiver of any rights that Princeton NRP and the commercial owner for Jetta Development LLC may have to assert that the commercial parcel may be non-jurisdictional under the order conditions. So I think that last sentence goes right in line with the earlier part, so you read the whole thing in context. I just want to be clear, again, and I've said it, this is now probably the fourth meeting that I'm saying with such precision. There was about one parcel of land, one notice of intent, one project, one order of conditions issued. There is no segregation of commercial versus residential versus hospital versus heliport. There's one piece of land regardless of the use. The permit rides with the entire property. And anything beyond that is a business transaction between the parties. The parties to the application and the parties to the order of conditions issued are mutual, hence our requirement for there being one point of contact. The way this project is, any project, but this one in particular, has played out, is there are portions of those tracts of land that fall within jurisdiction, some completely, others partially, and there are other partial portions of the site that are outside of conservation jurisdiction until such time, and maybe never, as there are outside influences from outside of the normal jurisdiction that cause impacts that make it jurisdictional. And that's what we've been wrestling with.
I fully understand.
And because of a artificial line drawn between a business transaction, it doesn't negate or change the permit or the jurisdiction of this commission. And that's what we've been wrestling with, and that makes it imperative that there be a single person, single party, to act as the conveyor of information, the receiver and conveyor and transmitter of information, both from us to the various business groups, and through those business groups back through them to us. And that's what we've made important. And I think you understand that. But I don't ever suggest that we're gonna ask you to waive any rights or any party's rights. What we're simply saying is that because of that, the actions that have occurred on that site and that continue to occur on site, and that we've continued to discover through the information that we've requested for half a year now, have come to light. You know, it's proving that that jurisdiction has in fact gone beyond, the impacts caused by this development have gone beyond what would be typical jurisdiction of Conservation Commission. And that, I just want to make clear, is laying the groundwork for the reason why we're looking for that point person. And I understand the careful crafting of the words here, but, you know, we know what they mean, and we know what we're looking for, and we know what the project has caused as impacts.
I've been to most of the hearings, so I'm fully aware. I understand that's the board's position, and you asked for a point of contact, and I'm it.
Okay.
I think the only position I was taking was, to the extent there's something operational with the commercial site, I understand that we're responsible, but I'm not the commercial GC, or those are the only distinctions I was trying to make.
Understood. We do understand. We just wanted to clarify our position.
Well, you know, as an attorney, you can't just write a single sentence. We get
and-
paid by the word.
And we do consider you able counsel, so we appreciate your opinion. So the,
So there's two,
yep,
there's two other things for discussion with Attorney Brown and Mr. Henry for, you know, before we get on to the erosion control of the commercial side.
so, well, the first thing is the enforcement order that he's responded to. So we have a point of contact. They've
Yes.
responded to the enforcement order. We're talking about site-wide, we're talking about what's described as the residential side? Are we talking about that side?
Yeah.
So the first order was that enforcement order. What's the other?
So, we've discovered there's a deposition of material just downstream of the permanent discharge point of the treatment system.
So when you describe that point, you're talking about the infiltration trench, the area of the infiltration trench at what I'm going to call the airport side of the property?
Yes, the permanent discharge point.
Permit discharge point, so that the infiltration trench with the sump pumps
Yep.
that capture and pump to the frac tanks.
The permanent discharge point that takes, is it the garage system?
garage system.
It's the garage system
Okay.
that
all right.
discharges to.
Okay, all right.
So, a couple of weeks ago, actually, it was, our erosion control monitor with Williams and Sparagus had just noticed this material that started to accumulate just downstream of the discharge pipe. Lockwood had it tested. And you have their two-page testing results that we received this afternoon on your desks. And so, we really didn't know what it was. It was
Yeah.
a sort of gelatinous, had no odor, it was a beige color.
It was collected?
It was collected, and LRT had it sampled and tested and analyzed. So I'm gonna hand it over to Mr. Henry,
Sure.
so,
Thank you, Amy.
yeah.
So we were out there on February 10th, and we collected the sample that Amy was describing, and we submitted it to the lab. In addition to the treated water coming out of the system and the raw water coming in the system. This letter summarizes what we analyzed for and basically the results. So for me to summarize, the material that was depositing along the flow path of the discharge, we analyzed it for an algae screen, because if you take a look at the picture, it definitely looked like a biological type of growth. So we weren't sure what it was, so we had the lab run an algae screen, and they concluded it is not algae, but they ran additional analysis, and they put it in a petri dish, and they allowed a 5-day growth period, and they concluded that it is a mold, some type of a biological mold. The lab can't tell me or tell us exactly what type of mold it is, but it is a biological type of mold. So we do have confirmation on that. So the water samples that we collected going into the treatment system and going out of the treatment system, we were looking for things that may have caused this. So we analyzed for pH, alkalinity, total dissolved solids, and several nutrients. And what we found was the pH adjustment is doing what it should. The pH coming into the system is about 12. When it's treated, it's discharged, at least at the time of the sample, it was about 7.7. So we're in compliance there. The alkalinity is basically an indication of the hardness of the water. When any high pH water comes in, the alkalinity is going to be very high. It was around 500 or so, 512. After the pH treatment, alkalinity dropped down to about 6. So basically, it took a hard water, makes it a soft water. That's what happens when you do pH adjustment. The total dissolved solids, we thought maybe the system's adding some solids to the system. It's not. The total dissolved solids coming into the system, out of the system, there was no net change. As far as any nutrients, no net change from the raw data coming in to the treated water going out. So basically, what's growing, or what that growth is, again, it's a mold, and it's not something, in my opinion, that's being caused by the system. Any addition, the system's not depositing anything there, but the mold is growing. So
You are,
there's
right?
no, not on the system in the
Not on this
garage.
system.
The interceptor trench right now is all treated within the system that's housed in one of the garages. The only addition we're doing to that is pH
Just
adjustment.
pH adjustment.
Just pH adjustment, that is it. We're not adding anything else. So that's why we kind of looked at these parameters that we presented in the letter. So, again, it is a type of mold.
Any thoughts as to the genesis of this mold? Have you seen this mold before?
No, what I did notice, and I had pointed this out to Amy, it seems to be where the flow path of water is, where it contacts any organics. Yeah, obviously, you're in a wetland, so there's a lot of organics, but where the water discharges from our 4-inch pipe, there's a stone apron. On that stone apron, there's really no growth. As soon as the water cascades over to where the leaves are, and there's any organics, that's where this growth was observed. So it has something to do with, the organics, and the mold seems to adhere to that. So,
So no indication that calcium carbonate's involved with the mold, or is that too early to tell?
no, and that's the whole reason why we ran the alkalinity, because calcium carbonate, the CaCO3,
Yep.
it's coming into the system at about 512 milligrams per liter.
Yep.
Again, indicative of hard water. When it's treated, it comes out at about 6. So basically, there's very little, if any, calcium carbonate in the discharge. So
Okay.
we wanted to make sure of that.
And if calcite was moving through it, we've never seen it manifest itself in anything like a gelatinous substance. It's always been
Right.
a skim coat or a plasticized coat, once it's dried out. This is completely unlike that.
Right, right, and that's why we wanted to do an algae scan. I mean, my first glance, I'm not a microbiologist, I'm an engineer, but I looked at it at first glance and I said, it is, to me, it appears to be some type of a growth, not a deposit like calcite, so.
So then that begs the question, what kind of impacts can the mold have on the wetland resource area that it wants to get into? I'd be interested in knowing if we know. I mean, I'm the first to admit that this is all new ground, and we're all seeing some of these results for the first time on both sides of the table here. But ultimately, our charge is to protect the wetland resource areas, the surface water, the groundwater. That's our end game. So I just don't know if this is an inert mold or a harmful mold, or who knows what it is. I don't know.
So the lab that analyzed it, they do more chemistry type analysis. They're not a microbiological lab. So all they could tell us was it's not algae, it is a mold, because they did the 5-day growth on it. If additional analysis were required or requested, that's something that, I could talk to Jeff about or others.
So we think this is isolated to this one discharge point?
Yes.
And is it in the wetland, or is it adjacent to, or is it well up gradient of? I just don't have a feel for,
It's in the wetland,
it's moving down there.
yeah. I mean,
That's the
it
thing,
it dissipates after a little while, so, there's an area where it's very evident, and then the further you go downstream, it seems to not.
So the only thing that we
Exhibit.
can take from it is, this is something new, as far as we know. I don't think we've seen this type of product on any site. So it has to be related to the activities. We just don't know how or why yet. And I think, and I appreciate your analysis. I have a copy. I understand it, and you did what we would want you to do. I guess we just have to keep watching it and checking on it. I don't see how we can not.
So are we putting additional protection measures in there to make sure it doesn't ooze further downhill? I mean, we putting an extra row of bales or fence or some sort of containment? Or do we think that would be pointless? Is it localized just at the discharge, or is it, several square feet, or is it?
Kind of along the flow path, beyond the discharge. It might go, 100 feet, or maybe
If that.
50 feet.
Maybe, 50 to 60.
Oh, I was
And then
thinking
basically-
localized like the size of the table. No, this is
It's
moving.
down a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
But
when he says the flow path, he means that area where it comes under the wall, where it's captured in the trench, that whole area, and it's all flowing downhill into the resource area. That's the area of concern. But we know what it's not so far, so that's good.
Yeah, in our opinion, we talked amongst ourselves as well, and, you know, mold obviously is not a bad thing either. I mean, the
Yeah.
environment, obviously it likes the environment, and that's why it's growing. So, you know, to say it's dangerous or anything like that, you know, in our opinion, it's a good environment for the mold to grow. So whatever we're discharging, the waters, you know, the waters, it's good for that, so.
I want to achieve more of a comfort level.
Right.
Paul. I'd like to keep looking at it.
I think in the past, at least from my experience, we've had Paul McManus
Yeah.
do more of the wetland impact analysis, and we have Vern Kokosa
Yeah.
from Sanborn Head that could do perhaps some more
I couldn't remember
chemical.
Paul's name, but that's exactly where my mind was going, at least
He'll-
he understands the biology of the ecosystem down there. You know, just because we've never seen, I've seen the movie, but I've never seen the slime like this before in the real life. Paul may have seen it. He may know exactly what it is and how it comes to be.
I'll ask him to look into it.
So is there a way to send it to a microbiology lab, or
I'd start with Paul first.
Yeah,
start with Paul?
I'd start with Paul first, because
Okay,
he understands wetland ecosystems, and,
okay.
I mean, sending it off to lab is just a waste, in my opinion, a waste of money, because I don't even know what are we asking for him to find? Sky's
What's
the
the
limit.
species of the mold?
And how much of this substance is there?
Along the
A
bank of
stretch-
100 feet,
a
50 to
stretch,
100 feet.
if- Yeah,
But, like, the width of it, I mean, is it,
oh, I mean,
It's a very narrow.
it's
channel.
narrow,
It's
it's narrow,
probably,
yeah.
what, 2, 3, 4 feet wide, it's
That's
very,
like
yeah, maybe 2
300
feet.
300, between 2 and 300 square feet.
So it's
Total, right?
it's basically a stream, if you will.
Yeah, and it's small, and again, as far as the distance, it's probably not 100, it
No, I
probably
wouldn't
is
say it's
maybe,
100.
you know, 25 to 50 or something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
but it's only in this one location?
Yes,
Right.
No other place
Yeah.
on site?
that we've observed
That we
anyways.
observed, right.
So, you've got the garage system, and then you have the other system with the
Front.
infiltrated trench. So it's capturing the water that gets into the trench, pumping it up to the garage system,
Correct,
where it's treated and discharged.
that's correct.
We're not seeing this in the interceptor trench,
Well, that.
pre-treatment. We're not seeing it there.
the mold.
The mold is not, again, the interceptor trench is collecting the water, it's going into the garage for treatment and then discharged. The other system that was there did collect some of the water from the interceptor trench, but now it's mostly just the stormwater runoff that's collecting on the site. So, I guess to answer your question, no, we have not seen this in the other discharge locations, but the system was previously
Garage
operated.
heated, is that system putting out warmer water? Is it changing the?
It is heated, but I'm
environment?
not sure how much, I mean, the time the water's actually in the garage is, you know, if it's a half hour, it's probably not even a half hour, it's probably 15 minutes by the time it enters. It goes through the treatment process and then discharges. I'm not sure how much of a temperature rise you would get at that point.
So it's not because we're spiking it and getting a bloom
Yeah.
because of change in temperature?
Right.
Yeah, let's have,
But it also could, Joe, it could be related to the fact that we don't actually know completely what's underneath the site where the water's traveling through. We know there's RCA in there, we know there are other materials in there. We don't know the makeup of all the materials. We don't know because that information was never provided. Have never been recorded, I don't know, but it was definitely never provided. We don't know the quantity or the quality or the makeup of everything. We know the RCA.
I'm falling into my own trap. I mean,
So-
I'm intrigued by it, I'm curious, I want to learn. The truth is I don't have the horsepower to understand what the heck this stuff is.
Oh, just
But
that,
let's start
we
with
have to
what
watch
the
it.
biologist says,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we'll work on it together once he tells us what he thinks it
And
is.
it could, again, without talking to Paul, again, since it seems to be confined to the organics where the water's flowing over the leaves and the
Yeah.
branches,
Yeah.
there could have been something on that where the water's just kind of given an environment now to grow. you
Could
know.
be.
So, again, I think it's worth talking to Paul about this.
Good idea.
So,
So this is the only new development on
Right.
the old
Right,
enforcement order.
exactly.
Well, let me
Yep.
let me ask one question. The analysis, the pH analysis that's been ongoing since last August or September, has there been any change in the pH pre-treated. It's been at 12.5 approximately, plus or minus. Has there been any change in the pH level before we treat it?
Based on my read of the reports, haven't noticed anything different in the last month that wasn't there 3 or
Yeah,
4 months
I
ago.
looked at my spaghetti chart also, and I didn't see a change either, but I just wanted to see, make sure I had the most updated information. So
Yeah, and I would concur, it's very stable.
it's stable, but unfortunately, it's got to continue to be captured and treated. There could be no.
At this, on February 10th, it was 12.1,
Yeah.
according to the lab,
So that's where it's been. It's been double what it should be, so. Obviously, the protocol has to remain in place.
Yep.
I guess that would be the only other thing, so.
Yep.
Has Mike Sabulis been involved in this conversation, or is this be new revolution?
The mold
Yeah.
conversation, yes.
Okay, so he's aware of it now?
Yep, yep.
He has no ideas?
No,
Again,
he talked to Paul Lockwood with an idea of sulfite dissipation,
Yeah, I'm not privy to that, to be honest with you.
but I think with this result, if that goes away, that hypothesis goes away.
So, then the next,
So the other thing is, we should request additional funds for GEI's continued peer review services.
yeah, so we need to, as you know, our consultant, you guys escrow funds for the payment of the consultant, so how much money do you want escrowed?
Well,
I think we contributed $10,000 a month or so ago.
yeah, but it's been a pretty active
Maybe.
load of information
Depending on the
coming
accounting, I
in.
don't see, it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah,
Right, so he probably needs more money,
yeah,
because he's working on the entire site, and he's put a lot of hours into the
yeah,
analysis of the borings and the work most of the work on what's referred to as the Fagetta piece. So,
So
his billable hours are,
yeah.
I'm sure, up there.
Yeah, I think we just haven't received an accounting, and as I said, I know we paid
I-
$10,000.
I mean, I can definitely give you current
If-
accounting,
If the money's needed, that's
yeah.
certainly understandable.
So, you can do both? You can give an accounting
Sure.
and a cover letter with a request for the additional funds that you want,
Mhm.
and send everything over in the same package.
Okay.
Are there any questions or concerns or objections from the commission with regard to the payment of the consultant? Do you need a motion?
Yeah, I was going to just suggest maybe 20,000, and then that would probably carry us for a good long time, I think.
Okay,
that
so
we
we'd be
just don't
looking
have
for a
keep
motion to
asking,
escrow an
asking,
additional
asking.
20,000 to accompany the accounting over to the applicants.
So moved.
Second.
Any-
Sorry.
Motion and a second, any discussion? There is none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, and that's unanimous, so you have your motion.
Great.
Anything you need, obviously, just ask with regard to the
Yeah,
accounting.
I'll totally-
I haven't been
yeah.
involved in the process, but I'm sure having done with many 53G accounts, there is an accounting process, and
Yep.
I think as long as someone's paying attention to it.
Absolutely,
Yep.
yeah, everything is documented.
So,
We have, let me just so I'm clear on it, I don't want to sound like we're just bombarding the project with excessive coverage and monitoring. We still have an environmental monitor who's looking at soil and erosion control.
Yes,
And that's the limitation of his scope. And Mike is not evaluating, Sabulis is not evaluating soil and erosion control, realizing that's somebody else's work.
Yeah, right.
So Mike's work his scope is very limited. There's no overlap.
No.
There's not like we're doing double the task
no,
and not making efficient
No.
use. I want to be clear on that.
oh, yeah.
Because I know sometimes it can evolve into that. And I didn't think that was happening here because
No.
the efforts seem to be very, very different in two different directions.
Yeah, Mike is technical data review and, analysis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think Greg Hockman's team does a once-a-week
Yep.
inspection, and any rain event in excess of an inch or half inch, something to that effect.
So so that we don't drag this on all night, the next thing we have to talk about is the Fagetta piece. We have to talk about the test borings and the analysis of the test borings. The test results that were provided by Hancock Associates for the commercial site, according to the report I have, indicated the presence of RCA in the soil samples collected from 3 of the 5 borings. They were analyzed via microscopy SB3, SB6, and SB10. pH levels of 8.6 to 10 were detected in 3 of the 6 test sites. Is that accurate? Do I have that right?
I believe I had 2.
2? Okay. So I'll go with 2, because I can't contradict you.
So what did you just say? I'm sorry. What was that?
So in 2 of the 6 borings that were analyzed,
Yeah.
we, pH levels of 8.6 and 10 were observed.
Yes, in monitoring well 4 and 5.
Monitoring well 4 and 5.
Yes.
So, for some reason, there were 4 borings that were not tested.
These are wells, monitoring wells.
So 5 out of 10 of the,
I'm looking at the boring sites,
yeah, so 5.
where they bored down and pull samples
Talking
out.
about the microvision report,
Yeah,
I thought it hit all 10.
according to the, I have a map that's marked up in front of me.
Yeah, hold on, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, if you can put that up, that'll
Yeah.
make it easy, we're all looking at the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
erosion control sediment plan, CO5. And,
So, this has my annotations on
so
it.
there it is, right there, that's the one. So, if you look at it,
Let's just lay the baseline of what we're looking at first, though, if you remember, everybody at home.
actually, we're talking about 2 different things. pH is coming out of the monitoring wells.
Monitoring wells, exactly.
Yes.
Those were
And-
done as part of the,
and the makeup of the fill is coming out of the borings.
correct.
Right.
So, what I'm bringing up is, for some reason, even though we asked that all the borings be tested to determine what it was, there were four borings that are marked as not tested.
5 not tested. 1, 2,
5.
3, 4, 5 not tested.
5 not tested, so that,
5 out of the 10, so half were tested.
so that's just a point of observation.
And out of the 5 that were tested, 3 of them show that RCA is present and 2 do not. That's a summary.
And that's correct.
So
and
if
that's
you were to extrapolate similar results on the ones that weren't tested, you could suggest that 6 of the 10 have RCA in them. And looking at the checkerboard fashion of where the RCA is and where the not testeds are, you could almost connect the dots and say, if you were to test those, you're going to find RCA, because they're all adjacent to the other borings. So step 1 was we asked the borings be done in order to determine what the fill was, to what extent, at what elevation, and was there RCA present or not. That was the initial request a month ago. 2 weeks ago, when we were told the borings are done and this is where the fill is, and we asked, where's the RCA? And they said, well, we didn't check for RCA. I said, well, that's not what you were told to do in an enforcement order. And we reminded, so here it is, a full month later, and we only have half of the borings tested to answer the question that was asked a month ago. And of the ones that they did test, more than half of them have RCA present. So the question we've asked for better part of 6 months, if not longer, by speculation, and then through an order, a strong suggestion made 2 months ago, and then an order issued a month ago, we still don't have
Full.
all the answer. What we do have is a partial answer that suggests, and that's why we have a problem with groundwater pH, because it's there.
So what we do have, though, I think we have sufficient information to conclude that there is RCA widespread through this parcel. The 3 that showed RCA are far enough apart from each other that it at least provides evidence to me that there is RCA on the site. And it also, in my opinion, gives us the authority to consider this parcel jurisdictional. And I don't know if the assertion of jurisdiction requires a motion, or if it's an action that we take. I don't know exactly how the bylaw provides for
I
that.
think we've kind of already said it. I think we've already kind of said it.
Well, I'm saying that now,
Right.
but I want to make sure, I want to follow the rules correctly. Because that, the presence of RCA, the use of RCA in the site is just not permitted and it's not acceptable.
Well, I want to go back to how we've got to this point today, is there was no knowledge that RCA was going to be used. There was even no thought that there was going to be a problem with it. The presence of it was determined when we found the impact in
The results.
within jurisdictional areas. And what we did at that time is, after some fashion of understanding and wrangling with the question, and with the developer, doing the same, understood that, putting this stuff anywhere in the proximity of the wetland areas can't happen. And really shouldn't be anywhere under the stormwater systems, because they're vulnerable and it's gonna likely result in an issue in the future. And in the course of wrangling with the question, well, we want the RCA out of there, not only could we not get it out everywhere by what we knew at that time, there was also the request from the developer to leave RCA in place under the structures they had already built. There were some foundations in, some buildings under construction, the retaining wall was in, and this material was there, and harvesting or excavating it out would have caused a structural impact to those facilities. But on strong recommendation, we suggested that you probably shouldn't use it anywhere else, and I want to say that we didn't have jurisdiction at that point because we didn't fully understand the impact of the source of the impact. Though, it's what I said 6 months ago, we've been asking for this data. That's when this data was being asked, was to find out what's happening upstream, where's the groundwater, how's this stuff coming down into our jurisdiction. So we let the stuff under the building stay put in, and they obliged and harvested it out from under the stormwater systems and adjacent to the stormwater systems. But we always had that underlying concern, and from time to time, we would strongly suggest that we need to know where else it exists upstream and how does it interact with groundwater. So when this came around to start this part of the project, was brought to us in the context of, this is our stormwater management, not stormwater management, this is our construction BMPs that we're gonna put in place, how we're gonna collect water, and we're gonna channel it, and we're gonna treat it, and get suspended solids out, and control turbidity, and monitor and control pH, all of that, and again, we said, we still don't know what's happening upstream, up gradient,
Right.
within the groundwater horizon. And through that enforcement order, did it become required that these 10 borings be done, which were done, and only half of which were tested. So that's how we got to where we are. The reason why I laid that all out in that sequence is this is nothing new. We've been asking for it for more than 6 months.
Right.
We have a permit for the entire project. We know that the impacts, we know by the science and by measurement, that the impacts of the water quality are driven by water moving through this RCA material and finding its way to areas that are within our jurisdiction. We've said many times that we're gonna extend jurisdiction. We've done it formally with an enforcement order. But I think we're at a point now, and I feel like I'm controlling the meeting, and I'll let others talk in a minute, but I think we're at a point now where we have information on this site that didn't exist at the time of issuing the permit. I think we reopened the public hearing and not so much start over, but get this on the record properly and
Amend the order.
and amend the order. I think there's monkeying around with incremental enforcement orders and ratcheting up, I think are just long overdue. And And the fact that we have separate players and, the finger pointing is easily gonna happen, it's the commercial site, but I didn't put the RCA there. I didn't know the groundwater was there. Well, it's a commercial site, it's got nothing to do with the residential. Done. I'm sick of hearing it. I think we reopen the public hearing and amend the order. We have information that hasn't been shared, and I don't say suspiciously, but, the engineer in the beginning was downplaying the stormwater system and how it interacted with this material, and even though he knew about it, he didn't think it was all that important till it became important. But I don't believe that the order of conditions issued on this site, the one site with the one permit, reflects the conditions that we're trying to deal with. And I think that's, it seems harsh, but I think it's where we're at. And I hate to say it, the fact that we got only half of the borings tested, when I couldn't have physically pounded the table to get his attention that this is what we wanted, I can't believe it wasn't done. And that's it, I'm at the end of my rope on this project.
Can I assume that you're offering a motion?
At some point, probably, but I want to hear what my colleagues have to say,
All right. Just bear with me, counsel, 1 second. Deb, just wait.
And before we go to vote, we'll go.
I just want to
go
poll
to
this
them,
one,
yeah.
and then I'll welcome your comment.
Okay, I do agree with Joe. We've been asking for all of this information, and it's coming in dribs and drabs, and we really didn't know the full impact of all of this, but now we're getting a clearer picture, and I agree with Joe that we should revisit this.
Doug?
Well, it seems that even though this particular site that's commercial is not within jurisdiction of the commission, the water that's being drained from the site ends up going through the other development and tied into the system. So if the water is contaminated from this site, then it's gonna affect the wetlands. So I think based on what has happened, in a sense, you say, you are under our control. The fact that you're using RCA in there, which is causing some of the problems, who's to say that since it's on your site, it's not gonna eventually create problems as water goes through it? And
So-
the thing is, they have to, water they get rid of from their site through whatever drainage system they put in, they're gonna have to control it, keep an eye on it, on the condition of it, and whether or not it's a problem. And for them to say, we don't have to do that, it's, in my mind, the way I look at it, it's a lot of bullshit.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown?
A couple of comments. I can't answer your frustration with why certain things have been delivered or not delivered, and been in front of Mr. Lynch lots of times, so I'm sure you've made your point clear. So I can't answer why certain pieces of information have or haven't. I guess my question is, or first is an explanation. I don't believe anyone involved in both developments is involved in any finger pointing that it's their fault or whoever's fault. I was involved in the original drafting of all the documents that created this parcel and separated this parcel. There are cross easements between the parties and agreements of record that say we all share the stormwater management system, we all share these systems. So at no point is there a position that if groundwater is coming from this commercial site that has possibly calcite in it, and it's captured in the interceptor trench, that we don't have an obligation to treat it. And whether it comes from this area of the site, another area of the site, that we recognize is our ultimate responsibility. And that's why we've designed the interceptor trench in the manner that we have. So it accommodates the potential that there could be calcite here. I watched the meeting last time, and I know Rob DiBenedetto stood up here along with Mike Zaboulis, and you all went through gradients and marked them down systematically to show, you know, I think you mentioned the old farm. Everything is draining to the back right of that area, being collected by the interceptor trench, passed through Lockwood's technology and frac tank system. So we're not passing the buck on if water comes out of this site, the commercial area, that it's not a responsibility of the development team. We're not. We're not drawing a paper wall and saying that's not our problem. We recognize that in a worst-case scenario, it's all going to be collected by the interceptor trench, because that's where all the water's migrating, and it'll continue to operate. It's been housed indoors so that it can run, you know, for some time. I don't think anyone envisions in 3 months we're going to be shutting down the frac tanks. You know, it's going to run in perpetuity. The operation of the apartment complex recognizes that. That's why we've housed it. That's why we've made it as aesthetically pleasing as we can. So that's my main point, is that it's all the same. It's all the same water at the end that will be collected by the interceptor trench, treated in the frac tank, if there truly is calcite here. I think the other point that I would mention, and I guess then I'll get to my question, is while it's true there are 3 soil borings that do show some level of calcite, you know, they're microscopic analysis. In the true characterization from those soil borings say, primarily fine-sized, light brown, minimal grains with a light load of concrete particulars. So it's not as if even these samples, and I understand you can extrapolate non-samples, but even these samples are saying there's a light presence of calcite here. I don't think that's anything near, and they identify that in the microvision report, that it's not anywhere near what the original samples were in April of 2019. So there is a hint of it, there's no doubt there, but I just want to properly characterize what we're finding. It's not loaded like the other portions of the site were. Why we haven't gotten the other reports to you, I can't explain that. And the last thing, I started off with a question, was, you know, why is there a need to go to a new order of conditions when we're operating under this enforcement order? The enforcement order recognizes that this area is jurisdictional. We have to comply with the enforcement order. To the extent you need to amend the enforcement order, that you need something, or we haven't done something, or whatever it needs to be done. I just don't understand the distinction for reopening the hearing when all, and I make no excuse for not having provided you the data. You know, that's on the team. That's on the team. But I just don't understand the distinction between. It's not like we don't have a process to address these issues that Mr. Lynch raised. We do have a process. We have the enforcement order. If it needs to be supplemented, let's supplement it. And we've been coming here for several months. You know, the OJ team is still the OJ team, and we will continue to work on this. We have no other choice but to address this until you are all satisfied.
Yeah, clearly you heard the frustration in my voice. It
Yep.
wasn't made on any one piece of data. It's based on the chronology, first and foremost. The absence of material information on these 4 borings absolutely played into it, but also looking at where there was RCA and looking at the monitoring wells and what pH was measured in those, suggests there's a very likely interaction between.
Can I just add one point there? Yeah, when you told us to remove the RCA from the environmentally sensitive areas, as I recall, the direction was we could not place it within a 10-foot diameter of the stormwater management systems. We could place it under driveways, we could place it under buildings, so long as we didn't mess up the siding that was there. So there is aggregate, that is a driveway right above where you see those hatched marks. That's the driveway between Building C, Building D, and the commercial. So it is a driveway. It does have an aggregate beneath it to serve as a base. So it's somewhat coincidental that you have the monitoring wells right at the edge of the driveway, and they're picking up some aggregate, they're picking up some higher pHs. I'm just offering that as a suggestion.
When we initially ordered the removal of RCA on the residential site, when this first discovery was first made, the applicant never stopped construction. During the entire discussion, the construction went on at a fevered pitch. So that when we finally got to the point where we were able to connect the correlation between the aggregate and the increased pH levels of the water coming off the site, when we finally, we were a little bit slow in learning, partially because we don't have the experience in this, and partially because the information wasn't coming in as we had hoped. And that, as I said, there's still information that never came in. If we had known then what we know now, we would have had you take a building down and take down a retaining wall and remove all that aggregate from the site. If we knew then what we know now, that building would be down. We would have deconstructed that building. And only because this thing got ahead of us and got away from us, it was like a horse pulling a wagon. We lost control of it, and, you know, because we've never seen this before, and you know, when I say you guys, I'm just referring generally to all the applicants. You guys stepped it up on the construction side. We couldn't stop it. We didn't stop the paving. And then only when we finally were able to realize, when we brought an expert on to educate us and to level the playing field, if you will, we now realized how very dangerous this RCA is to the environment and to the surface water and to the groundwater. We know it now. We didn't know it 18 months ago. But fortunately for us and for the people of the town, no construction has taken place yet on the Fagetta site. So we have a chance, at the very least, to correct this site. I think what Mr. Lynch, when he suggests that we reopen the order of conditions, I suspect it would be with an eye towards correcting this site without having to use an enforcement order, to have it to be part of an actual order of conditions, and not have this whole thing convoluted with one enforcement order after another.
So
Well, I think we only
the
have-
one last element that weighed into my statement being made the way it was made is in fact your email, Attorney Brown, to Amy, in that's why I read it with emphasis at the beginning of this discussion, is that construed as any waiver of any rights that Princeton NRP or the commercial owner for Fagetta Development LLC may have to assert the commercial parcel may be non-jurisdictional under the current order of conditions. I'm trying to say it again, crystal clear. It absolutely is. Absolutely is. And if it takes reopening the order of conditions, reopening the hearing so we can amend the order of conditions, then that's what it takes. If that's what it takes, then that's what it takes.
Let me try to clarify that. The beginning of that sentence says, notwithstanding our agreement to abide by the enforcement order, we're just not waiving some legal rights. So it doesn't take a position that we do not consider this non-jurisdictional. If we did, we wouldn't be complying with the enforcement order. We just say, you don't have the right to assert an enforcement order against you. So I'm not disrespecting the commission or suggesting we don't have obligations under this enforcement order to answer every single question that you've previously asked, or you may ask tonight or next week, or whatever it is. I don't understand the distinction between a new order of conditions and operating under the enforcement order, because it certainly controls the issuance of building permits and certificates.
The order of conditions would not be new, it would be an amendment to the existing order. And the amendment would likely address,
And we can't just amend it without reopening the hearing, that's what.
we have to
I'm driving.
reopen.
No,
in
I
order to
understand that
amend.
part. I just don't understand what's the difference between amending it and operating under the enforcement order? That's my
It would
basic
have-
question.
It would be more specific, and it would have more more direction than an enforcement order does and can. And it would be part of the permanent record. It would be a better tool, I think, going forward. I don't think I don't think it's punitive, and I don't think it will harm or delay your project. It'll allow us to do a better job and have a better permit in place. And
I wouldn't speak to the delay part of it, because I'm sympathetic to what they might be thinking, that I think as we resolve the enforcement order actions, as lengthy as they may be, I mean, we're looking about it's taken a month to still not have all the results. We still would have been the same degree of impasse if we reopened the hearing and amended the order. So I think these are lengthy processes one way or the other. This all started with a discussion probably 6 weeks ago, thereabouts, to release this portion of the site, or to inform us that they were going to start construction on this part of the site, and that they were proposing soil and erosion controls, construction BMPs. And in the course of that discussion was when we said, whoa, put the brakes on.
Wow.
And we've been asking, and now we're insisting. So that's how, and again, it will result in delay. And is it any more of a delay than enforcement actions? I don't know. The ball's in their court of getting us the information.
Well, just to be clear, I think Amy, and I know Gene Enright was involved as well, can attest, the BMPs now are in place. The sedimentation pond is there, the swales, all the erosion control mechanisms that
We allowed them to do it at the last meeting.
Right.
were
Yeah, we
said
voted to do that.
differently, were required under the enforcement order. We have complied with that aspect of it.
Well, I have a motion and a second in front of me. So I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call the vote. All those in favor of reopening the order for the purpose of amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It would be, the chair is not voting, it would be 3-0. It would be a unanimous vote.
I'd just like to put my objection to that on the record.
So, yes, sir, we're being recorded and televised. Your objection is on the record and will be part of the record. With that being said, the enforcement order remains in place. It's not stayed. The enforcement order, if I'm correct, prohibits any activities on the commercial site other than those that have already been conducted. I'm not aware of any other activities that are permitted. If I have it wrong, please.
Oh, that's correct.
So that prohibition remains in place. There is no stay of execution on activities on the commercial site.
No other residential.
No,
Anything that's already in place continues to be in place.
right.
Correct.
Yeah.
It also gives the opportunity that sometime before we actually reopen that hearing, which we haven't voted a time certain to do that, gives them the opportunity to submit all the information in
Well,
a solution to.
We have a vote authorizing the order to be reopened for purpose of amendment. Now, the next step is you have to serve notice on the
Serve
parties.
notice, Yep.
So that would be the next step, is notice will be served on the parties.
So
Notify
today-
butters.
So the
For the public.
filing deadline for the next meeting would be this Friday?
It would
Or is it next
be
Friday?
27th.
So it's next Friday.
Well,
next
we're not
Thursday.
asking, we're not asking them to file anything. We're the one, we're the
doing
ones that
it.
are reopening them.
Reopen, yeah.
So they don't have to file, they don't have to take any action at all. They just have to respond.
So this could make the next meeting.
Yes.
This could and should make the
Yes.
next
Should
meeting,
next
because they're not required, we're not requiring them as of right now to submit anything.
Right.
Can I just ask a question, please?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean relative to jurisdictional related activities that are currently going on the site? For instance, we're finalizing the installation of the stormwater management systems. We're connecting them
On the
together.
commercial side?
In that driveway, which is actually half commercial and half residential.
I mean,
Well,
They're already installed, we're just we're connecting the pipes to allow them to work together.
Yeah, that is the fly in the ointment, because, I mean, I don't, my brash suggestion to reopen this doesn't go to the extent of asking you to redesign the site. We're not gonna
No, I
take
understand
away permits you have with regards to driveways and stormwater management and building locations. When I'm not looking to do that. What I'm looking to do is to understand what fill is where it is, what we're gonna do to clean it out.
Where it is and how much.
And to be crystal
Fully
clear that
agree.
the
I-
jurisdiction is across the entire site.
And we
That's
want-
really what I wanna accomplish.
And
I
my-
agree, I'm just
my
asking,
comments
what
about-
can we do in the meantime that isn't gonna run afoul of
If you want
whatever
to
the
start,
board
if
thinks?
you want to start removing the RCA voluntarily, we would issue an enforcement order allowing that removal.
I assume we
A
can
very
then-
serious answer. That was
I
not-
understand the
I'm
question.
not, believe me, I'm not a very funny guy.
Yep.
And it's a
I
very serious
assume that
answer.
then we can continue to finalize the stormwater management system. That's my question.
Your opinion on that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with that.
There's an agreement from Joe?
But,
Exactly.
Let me just poll,
Yeah,
because
sometimes
these
I
are
don't-
important, this is an important question, and I don't want to get it wrong.
Sometimes I don't say it always the right way, but my intention is to not stop construction for what has already been permitted,
allowed, okay.
both under the orders of condition
And the enforcement,
and all of the collective enforcement orders, to
Okay.
continue along those lines.
okay.
Okay,
And that reopening is only to have us catalog the documents
Yes.
in any amended decision. I may have to have support for an amended decision, who knows?
now, hold on. I'm not 100%. If this commission determines that we're not satisfied with the answers we get on how much and where on the commercial site, and we want it removed, I don't want to be told, well, you can't make us remove it. We've already constructed all this stuff on it and over it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the same answer I got from the residential side when they said, well, we can't dig there because there's a building there now and there's a retaining wall that goes down 12 feet.
I don't need to remind myself, because I remember 6 months ago, when the problem was brought to light and we began to understand it, the recommendation was stop bringing any more in, which I think they did, and to stop using it on site. And
So I guess that's
you
where
know,
I'm
their
going.
decision was that it was outside of
Yeah.
jurisdiction, they were confident, so against our
If I-
suggestion to not use it,
If-
they used it.
If I have any vote at all, mine is to get it out of there.
I understand.
And, you know, if you're gonna complete a tie-in that's gonna interfere with the removal of the RCA, I'd say do it at your peril.
No, my point is, in that driveway are our two largest stormwater management systems, these rain store systems. There's a series of pipes that then connects the systems, so that they all operate together and lead to the discharge point. So we're in the process of connecting those pipes.
Can you put
That's
that
all.
map back up?
Yep,
And that is up in the driveway.
That's where the monitoring wells
hatched.
are. Where the monitoring
They're
wells are.
they're east of it.
East of?
See the hatched?
up
Yeah,
here.
The
up
hatched
here.
areas
Yeah.
are the
These.
two,
Yes.
two stormwater management systems.
I see them.
There's a pipe that connects the two of them running directly southerly through a driveway, or the access drive, to, you know, the main discharge points, which are to the extreme south. So it's not venturing down into the commercial area at all. It's within the existing driveway. To answer Mr. Lynch's question, the monitoring wells are slightly, I'm getting my northwest and south mixed
Oh.
up, easterly, I believe. They're below the access drive. They're on the
Yes.
edge of the access drive.
Yes. Right. The
And we
blue-
would not
the
be, we're
blue.
not altering them, moving them, removing them, replacing them. Essentially, most of this connection work, I believe, is 90%
So-
done.
So I'm
So
gonna,
we have
I'm gonna go back
catch
against.
basin and drain, you're saying catch basin up here, catch basin and drain pipes connecting to the rain stores.
Here's what I'm puzzled by.
They're in.
Is 6 months ago, when the ongoing discussion was where RCA could be used and where it could not be used. We allowed it to stay under the building and under the retaining wall. There was no RCA to be anywhere beneath, adjacent to, any of the stormwater systems, including all the piping and all the trenching.
Correct.
So there's, to suggest that we might dig up those systems in order to get it out, there shouldn't be RCA there to begin with, and there should be
There isn't.
documentation that there isn't.
Your
they should-
order was a 10-foot diameter or radius around the stormwater management system of no RCA that has been adhered to. There isn't any in there. There are some on the other portions, the non-rain store portions of beneath that driveway, that access drive. A thin layer, as I'm told, to service the base.
So, I'm sorry, Attorney Brown, so your point is that we have RCA underneath the driveway in between the two parcels that have an RCA outside that 10-foot radius,
Right.
that you are you saying that you're expecting the commission to say remove that? Is that what you mean?
It was purely a question about, do we stop working? That was really the issue.
Oh, okay.
The remaining work to be
So,
done
well-
that could be considered jurisdictional, in my opinion, because I consider the stormwater management systems jurisdictional,
Right.
is to connect them. You know, I would say 90% of the pipe is there. Maybe we have, I'm not on site, so I don't know. There's a small bit of work left to do to finish one of the pipes.
On the commercial side, to connect the pipes to the existing systems.
The overall system.
Right.
Right?
They want to tie it
Okay.
into the overall
All
system.
right, all right.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know.
I
mean,
think it's, yeah,
I don't think, I could be wrong. My understanding is it's to go directly due south and connect those two rain store systems to connect then further southerly to where we have more rain store systems, like down there.
here.
That's the piping that I'm talking about, not down into the commercial areas.
Okay, so you're saying.
And again, that's
that
my
there's-
understanding.
there's-
But
I'm
they
not
don't
on site,
connect.
I'm not a construction guy.
But they don't connect, right? Zoom out again and go further to the northeast. My direction's right? I think it's that way,
North.
right?
North is top,
Okay.
yeah.
North.
So the larger infiltrating system,
Right here.
stormwater system, collects in basins in the corner of the site to a drain manhole and finds its way into this larger system. It doesn't connect to the one to the left. It has its own pair of basins, manhole connecting to it, and on the other, go further, slide a little further to the left, slide it to the right, if you will. Another pair of catch basins and a manhole go into that system. And these don't connect together, and that doesn't connect to the other one. So
Right.
there is no connection.
Right.
If the
And
stormwater
again, I may
management
be
systems are
mistaken
in,
that
they're in.
there is some
And
piping
there
within the
shouldn't
rain
be,
store.
assuming, presuming that there's full compliance with the order, the enforcement order, there shouldn't be RCA underneath those bases or that stormwater system,
Correct.
in any
Right.
system.
Correct.
And connecting between them is almost a,
I might have misspoken, again, I'm not on the site. There was a discussion about finishing connecting a pipe, which I understood to be connected to, it may just be finishing one of the rain store connection points. There's something, I just didn't want to run afoul of your order.
appreciate that.
To the extent we need to work on the rain store system. That was purely my
Okay,
point.
okay, I got it now.
I'm not creating
I
a
got you.
new
No,
system.
No, okay.
I have no reason to believe they were built in accordance with the enforcement order. There's no RCA there. Therefore, completing any peripheral work that might need to be done, as long as it's not in RCA, is something we can allow to continue to happen,
Okay.
because it's already permitted.
Right.
Could I add something about the commercial parcel with the RCA? Amy, do you mind zooming out just a little bit?
Sure.
You don't realize how much that pisses me off when you guys keep saying commercial and residential. It's
The parcel that's undeveloped. The
The
undeveloped
undeveloped
parcel.
portion of the parcel.
this
Sure.
phase of the project.
I just want to kind of give my opinion here. RCA was detected on this parcel, okay, at a microscopic level. there's a line of monitoring wells that are down gradient. The groundwater is flowing obviously from Osgood Street across the site, through that parcel, down to the wetland area, where it's being captured by the interceptor trench. So those monitor wells are immediately down gradient of that parcel, which has the microscopic RCA. Of those monitoring wells, if you look at the pH, the monitoring wells going from left to right, the pH is 6.7, 7.2, 6.9. Then you have the two wells that are
10.
impacted. You have 10.02, 8.63, and then you go over to the right at 6.58 or 6.6. So we know that the groundwater is flowing from that parcel through where the monitoring wells are. Only 2 of the wells are showing impact. One of them slightly impact, the other 10 that is impacted. The wells on either side of those impacts are essentially clean, non-detect. It's neutral, the pH. So we know that it's bounded, the groundwater, where it's actually impacted. We know it's bounded to the, I guess that would be the north or the east. It's bounded to the, it would be to the south. And it looks like any impacted groundwater is just flowing through where those 2 wells are. Again, the groundwater is gonna continue. It's gonna flow through the RCA that's along the roadway, through where the site's already developed, and it's gonna continue on and be captured by the interceptor trench. So, again, in my opinion, any RCA or any impacted water coming from that undeveloped parcel is gonna be picked up in the interceptor trench, and I know you had mentioned that as well. But again, it's, those wells are a good indication of what's on the site, and in my opinion, I don't think it's anything as much as what's in the residential area, the area that's developed right now. It's at a microscopic level. So, again, it's, I just wanted to make sure everybody
That's the
understands
kind
that.
of information we hope to learn.
Yeah, I'm not, in my mind, I've been speculating, and
A hearing would.
if I were you, I'd say that you've got, I don't know what the boring numbers are. Soil boring 1 and 4, I'd have a relatively high confidence level that when tested, you're gonna find this either minute or no RCA.
Okay.
But I would be less confident in boring number 5.
5.
But still maybe somewhat confident. But I'd be pretty confident that you would find RCA in 8 and 9. And I looked at, I reached that speculative conclusion based on what we know about where we think the groundwater is moving, based on where we actually physically observe water table, and looking at that plume working down towards those 2 elevated pHs. I think that's what you're going to find, and that but you prove it, and if the answer is up in this area that's not yet disturbed with building or not yet paved, and if there's RCA's in a very isolated area, I think that's where you want to get it out. And I think it's the way your mind wants to be going. But not under the pavement, and not on previously developed systems or buildings of the project.
With all due respect, if it is there, does that make a difference? Because we already see how the groundwater is being affected by that RCA. It's only showing up in 2 of the 6 wells, immediately down gradient of the area.
I don't know. I hate to say it, this is a new thing for us for certain, and I dare say for most commissions anywhere across the state. You guys are doing a hell of a job understanding the science and dealing with it. That's to your credit. What I don't know is, how long does this last? What are the expectations of any shift of ownership or responsibilities down the line? That's the sort of stuff that it's just esoteric. It's an enigma floating out there that I just can't get my arms around. And if these are the vulnerable areas and there's a plume of groundwater moving there that's proven to elevate pHs, and it can be excavated and removed, I think we ought to be considering that.
Just to answer part of your question, I don't think anyone is under the illusion we're not going to have to operate the interceptor trench in the frac tank for quite some time to capture this groundwater. until you all look at the PHs and say, you know, we're seeing 7s across the board. I think we've flushed out all the RCA, and that's gonna be your call. No one on the development team is under the impression that the frac tank system isn't gonna be operating long-term, and quite frankly, that's why we've brought it in-house. That's why we enclosed it.
I
The
can
treatment
say that
portion.
Right.
You guys are, as a team, are operating an extremely high level of willingness and competence and with success. Most developers this would have broken their back, and we could be facing a bankruptcy and responsibility in limbo. And I just don't know, and I don't want to get to your breaking point.
Neither do
And we
we.
need to prepare ourselves that in the long term, when it's God, we're not immortal, when there's a shift of ownership and, you know, something happens, is the next person as willing? Because we don't know if this is a 5-month, 5-year, or 50-year undertaking. None of us know.
Yeah, again, I did describe, when we created this, I did create, and I recorded at the Registry of Deeds, a series of cross easements that deal with these responsibilities, so future owners are going to be of public record, maybe not particularly about a monitoring well or something like that, but they're gonna know that there's a shared responsibility relative to the stormwater management system and the groundwater discharge system, so it's not gonna be a secret to future owner, because it's of record.
All right, well, right now, we have a unanimous motion to reopen
Understood.
the order, so Amy will send out the notices.
And we can continue that discussion at the next meeting, which is March 11th.
So that will also be the opening of the new hearing on the amended order of conditions?
Yes.
Yep.
In the interim, all the enforcement orders remain intact.
Okay. But I guess just to follow up on Mr. Lynch's point, we don't need to engage Joe to redesign stormwater management. We're getting into the minutia of what is
That's
left
not my
unanswered.
intent. That is
That's
not
left-
my
I doubt
Left unanswered.
very seriously that the discussion will go to stormwater.
Okay. So it's gonna be amended order for the entire site.
Well, the order is gonna be reopened for purpose of amendment. Where specifically on the site the amendments take place will be determined at that meeting. I can't tell you yet, I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate.
Okay?
I can tell you, even though I'd like to, I don't think I'll be allowed to ask you to knock a
Well,
building down.
I mean, we
To
could,
what?
Even though I would like to, I don't think anybody's gonna let me have you knock a building down.
I'm the person of contact. I don't think I possess that authority.
No,
I mean-
nor do I, so.
I mean, at the very least, we'll incorporate,
Yep.
you know, long-term monitoring requirements for the treatment system as conditions. I mean, you know,
I think this is gonna take some administrative burden, some
yeah,
serious burden.
yeah, I
of
foresee that.
Taking all the documents
Yes,
and
Yep.
citing the documents,
And-
taking all the actions.
distilling
And
them,
find out where
and
they fit
distilling them.
within conditions.
yes,
And
yep,
in a finding of fact and laying down of history of how we got
Yep.
to this
Right.
up front, you know,
Yep.
it's gonna be that sort of stuff.
right,
We'll have an actual order of conditions that is current,
Comprehensive.
rather than an order that's had enforcement orders attached to it,
I understand.
so, all right. Anything else?
well, I guess, and I know it probably will take a vote of the commission to decide whether you would require removal of what's on this undeveloped part of the site.
I'm sure
I
that
just feel like it's sort of, you know,
bringing the site into compliance is our goal, whether it's done through another enforcement order or whether it's done through the amendment. We want the site to be in compliance. So what does it take to put it in compliance? I guess we're gonna have to find out. What will it take to make it compliant?
Okay. I just
Is it-
want
That
it
meeting's
to,
2 weeks, or that's?
3 weeks.
It is 3 weeks, all right, I was looking at my
Right,
calendar here.
right.
It is 3 weeks.
The site's
I
got-
would,
the
I
site's
would
gotta be-
really encourage those not test, anything that's unknown, get the answer, so that discussion goes smoother. Because if it's a speculation that we're forced to make, we're gonna make it on the side of conservatism on our part.
I just want to be prepared for worst-case scenario of what the commission could vote, so it's,
Well,
I mean, you know-
I'll be happy to tell you where my mind is. I wanna see compliance.
right.
So
And-
what does it take to be compliant? What does it take? They can, as Joe just pointed out, part of the answer could be test the not tested sites.
Yep.
See what you got. They can do that on their own. I'm not
Mhm.
telling them to do it,
Yep,
but that wouldn't be a bad idea. And, then, give us a better picture, give us an idea,
By sites, you mean the soil borings?
yes.
yeah. The ones that weren't tested, why, I don't know,
Understood.
Um, The more information you guys bring to the table, the more quickly it'll resolve itself. Because the
Understood.
the one question that we've been asking since day one is, where is it and how much? And it's
And
the
how
one
deep?
thing, and
And
how,
where is it
where is it,
compared
how
to
much,
water?
and how deep, and that's the one thing that nobody has ever answered. We've been picking around it and picking around it, and we have never gotten anybody to quantify. And it could have been quantified, it really could have been, but it wasn't. And that was probably a decision that was made at that level back then. Okay, here's where we are now.
Understood. Thank you.
Amy, anything else?
No, that's it.
Thanks for your
Motion to
time.
continue.
Motion to continue
Second.
to March the
11th.
11th. All those in favor? Opposed? You are continued. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Mr. Chairman, I yield the chair.
I could just have decisions.
Yeah.
All right.
242-1762-95 Lions Way decision.
Draft decision?
It's just decisions now, right, guys?
Yes.
That's all we got, is
Okay.
2 decisions.
That's all right.
Three.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna share that one, right? She's good.
95 Lions Way. What? What? Okay,
wanna
95
give you a big
Lions
head.
Way. Draft
We have these
decision.
decisions.
Yes, you do.
You have it, right, yeah, it's
You
in
have
your
three of
package.
them.
I'm looking for them, too.
Oh, they might have been in my packet.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the decisions,
right.
Amy.
No,
I have,
they weren't in the packet.
Nine-
You doing
95
Lions Way first?
I didn't get them.
yeah, we got them. I got them, Lou.
Okay. Okay, that's.
It should be in there.
I have.
Is it in my packet?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't have, because my packet's in my truck.
All right, do you want? Yeah, we can share. Here we go.
That's okay.
There's three
I
decisions
have
right
full
there.
confidence that you write a decision.
Okay.
So,
Thank
in
you.
this
Thank you,
order,
Jamie.
where is it do we say that the applicant and their heirs and assigns forevermore
Yeah.
has assumed responsibility of maintaining the system? 'Cause I don't wanna rely on emails and memos
Oh,
between.
I got you. Gotcha.
Talk to
Well, we just write a condition.
So under your perpetual conditions, right?
Yeah.
Stormwater management?
Yep, so I'll just add language that the homeowner, his successors and assigns are responsible in perpetuity for the O and M.
Yeah, so I think under your after construction, I think we introduce a new condition.
Okay,
71 is where it belongs, and then
Yep.
everything else just gets renumbered.
all right. Got it. Okay.
And that's all I have.
I have no questions.
Are you satisfied with the 2,000, amount?
Bond, yeah.
I have no objection.
I just have, I'm just going through it, because we just had one on 1995 Salem, that they moved the foundation. It didn't affect the decision, but I thought that the foundations had to be certified.
All right, so Lions Way, it's
Strictly stormwater management,
It's
right?
stormwater management system for
one
95
is?
Lions Way.
Yes.
Yeah, he wants to take
Right.
the hole in his front yard and put it
B.
in a cistern and turn it into lawn.
Right,
Okay,
right.
I'm sure we talked about it, but I don't remember talking about it. So how do they maintain flows through that thing during construction? It's an existing system. Is there a bypass system? What the heck? I don't.
Well, that can be a condition requiring a plan to,
Yeah, submitting a plan that, that handles the flow of stormwater unimpeded during construction.
we never designated a, construction access or stockpiling on this plan?
not specifically,
it-
but I mean, it's gonna be accessed right off the cul-de-sac.
You said that, or they did?
Well, it's,
I'm just trying to get these in place. They don't have to qualify, like, I mean, you have, no oil-based sealer as part of the decision. This doesn't apply. But it should be there, because it's part of the boilerplate decision. I think we should list that the foundations should be certified per decision, once they're dug.
They're not doing any house construction
No.
at all.
No, I'm not saying it, I'm not saying this one in particular.
oh, no, I know, you're right.
I'm
I'm
thinking
gonna
in
add it.
further moving
No, I
forward,
know, you're right.
that the
You're
foundation
right,
will
that
be
is a
certified.
boilerplate.
That is a boilerplate, or
And it-
typical
and it
one, it's
will-
not,
and it
doesn't
will-
apply
Not this
here.
one.
And it
Doesn't
will be
apply here.
added to,
But
1203 Salem.
okay, well, the other thing I asked that I didn't see is construction access and stockpiling, because I see it says no stockpiling within a 100-foot buffer zone. But, nice, I noticed that you put in the fuel storage, which is very nice.
Yes,
That's the only thing construction access and stockpiling
Okay,
on
so-
all decisions should be on,
All
in
right.
it. So that they know, we know
I
where
mean,
they're
we
going.
should have made them put it on this plan.
Yeah,
But, we can add it as a condition that the plan must be amended prior to work that shows construction access and stockpiling areas.
thank you.
So
How's
there-
that?
This is an existing infiltration pond
Yes,
that they're gonna just level out, put Caltech chambers in, backfill it. So if they do it efficiently, there's no stockpiling. You literally, you shouldn't be. You're literally getting your Caltex all laid out, and as the loads come in, you're just spreading the stone directly in, right from the cul-de-sac.
In a perfect world with a perfect contractor.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt to put it in as a.
It doesn't hurt to put it in, because it's there.
Yeah,
If they do something wrong, hey, there it is.
yeah.
That's why I like to have as much information
yep.
as we can put in here. So
Okay.
it's not, I don't know. Okay, I'm good. I don't have any questions.
No questions?
Doug? Motion.
Move that we adopt the order of conditions 242-1762 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. And the next one is 242-1780? That's
No,
12.
1779.
I don't have that one.
Wyatt Hill?
Trustees
Where
of
you go?
Oh, well,
reservations,
okay.
trustees of reservations, Habitat,
Pardon me?
Barron's Habitat.
I heard, that was a good presentation. That's what the trustees of reservation, right?
Are we on White Hill?
Yes.
We are.
Yeah.
So,
And-
number 27, you may not want me, you may not want to do this, but I thought maybe allowing I guess it doesn't really matter one way or another, whether we say that the order is good for 5 years with, just from the get-go, or just do the 3 years and have them come back for the last 2. Because I think they're gonna need the full 5 years. But no matter what, no matter how we word it. But if you want.
I'd rather just get a 5-year order.
5-year order.
I'd rather give them the 5-year order.
I'd rather just get, we don't need to have them come back.
Okay, all right.
Again, not for this evening's discussion, but on things like this, which are really land management permits.
Yes,
We ought to almost lay out the stuff that we need done within the 5-year period and really let them go on a year-to-year basis after that, which is by coming and give us an annual report.
right.
That's a perpetual condition.
So I said at the end of the 5 years, the applicant shall submit a request for a certificate of compliance accompanied by a full report on restoration management effort undertaken. Upon receipt of the request of the certificate of compliance, the commission will consider assigning ongoing conditions attached to the certificate that would allow for specific management activities to continue for a time frame to be determined and conditioned as deemed practical and appropriate. I also wrote in, a requirement to notify abutters annually to list out anticipated activities for that year.
In what form? Notification?
Just,
Leafleting or certified mail?
no, just
Just a letter,
Just a letter?
Just a letter,
You don't want
first-class mail.
expensive.
just a regular letter.
Regular letter, okay.
Hi, how are you?
Russ.
Remember us, we're coming back.
Why Hill's off?
I like what you did with condition 33, because talking about determination of where the line is, it's important to point out there was no snow this January.
Oh,
Typically-
yeah.
Typically, you're kind of just going on the
Right.
vegetation and
Right.
pummeling through the ice.
So erosion controls aren't specifically called out because really erosion isn't anticipated but allowed for requiring it if we deem it necessary.
I think so. yeah. It has to be something that you, if you see it.
Yeah, gotta address it. And, $1,000 for bond, I don't know. I just threw it out there.
It's a good number.
Any other
Yes.
question?
So 52 talks about a butter notification.
Huh?
52 talks about annual
Abutter
butter
noti-
notification.
Hawaii letters. Number 52.
There's no problem getting membership renewals 5 times a year.
Right, that's what they'll do. They'll send out a letter with a membership application.
Or a donation request.
They wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't.
No.
I think on condition 52, maybe I'm nitpicking here,
No, it's all right.
and then you probably even say it right up front, but there may be other notifications that they need to do to satisfy other parties, fire department and whatnot.
Oh, yes.
So I think we should say that,
Okay.
these, condition 42 is subject to only the conservation's jurisdiction. Other parties may have other requirements for notification.
Okay.
Any other questions? Done? Deb? Motion?
I dare say there is no pavement anywhere on YSL. Why are we
And
doing
there
gold
better
tar?
never be.
Why are we doing?
It's part of both, that's what I'm
All right,
saying.
all right, all right.
There is some previously disturbed area.
Never paved.
No, well, previously,
walked the-
previously disturbed.
Okay.
On the side of the hill that approaches the old
Railroad
trestle. So that could come under that category. It is previously disturbed.
Okay, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Okay, now we have 242-1780.
All right. So we will be adding a condition, first condition under during construction for the foundation as-built plan required.
Yeah. Planning board.
Might be a road construction access somewhere, because I saw that you're supposed to sweep, they must, what are they using?
Another one?
I did see it when I was. Then number 62, construction access for all projects shall be swept daily. What do they got out there?
Oh, well, I guess maybe that means more like on Salem Street.
Oh, okay.
I can say public right away.
Do we
We do say
ever
public
require
right-of-way.
tracking pads, a tracking,
Yes,
Construction entrances?
yeah,
Sure,
Yeah,
we have,
probably.
like erosion stone.
yeah, we have on many
We have.
projects, yes.
Require that.
Yes, absolutely, on many projects.
I simply call them a tracking pad, because it can be stone, but they're actually some great, plastic
Oh.
grid systems now that you can
Ah.
operate in.
And that's a good thing to have.
Yeah, but they cost
So,
money,
um,
they don't expect-
Prior to construction, require one to
Cheaper
be
than
installed.
sweeping, David.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
Looks good.
Amy?
Yep.
On this, order of conditions at the bottom, in
Okay, now you
blue,
look-
it says 805 Forest Street.
Oh, ooh, good
So
catch.
You would wanna get that out.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
also on, Lions Way, 95 Lions Way, it has the same thing,
Seriously? Well, I guess
What is it, a
that's my-
footer?
yeah.
Oh, whoa. Thank you for noticing that. Oh, my goodness.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That's unanimous. You approve the decision. Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That's unanimous.